They blindfolded her before she even had time to bleed. Rough canvas scraped her skin, still hot from the fight. The knot cinched tight until darkness pressed against her like a second heartbeat. Captain Aria Kade didn't panic. She adapted. The floor beneath her knees was cold concrete, uneven. Two men stood close. She could feel the heat of their bodies, the shift in air when one adjusted his rifle strap. Overhead, a loose cable swayed and tapped metal, steady as a metronome. She tilted her head slightly, listening. The room wasn't large, 3 solid walls, one opening to her right. The air was heavy with oil, rust, and fear that didn't belong to her. A voice cut through the silence, cultured, deliberate, dangerous. "Captain Kade, you know why you're here." Dr. Aria Kade. Once a physicist, now a broker of chaos under the Helios Dominion flag. His boots clicked in a slow circle, every step measured, like a man cataloging an experiment. "You Americans," he said, almost curious, "so dependent on your toys, drones, satellites, optics, strip them away. And what are you?" Aria's lips curved faintly. "You'll find out." One guard shifted behind her, breath unsteady. Corin stepped closer. She could smell smoke beneath his cologne. "How many of your team are still alive?" "I wonder." A faint sound, a groan. Metal against metal filtered through the wall. Commander Rylan Cross, alive, 6, maybe 7 meters away. She stored the detail like data. Corin thought the blindfold made her helpless. He didn't realize he'd just handed her an advantage. She drew a slow breath. The air vibrated differently, now footsteps, distance, rhythm, even without sight. The world still spoke, and she knew how to listen. As the guards relaxed, mistaking stillness for surrender, Captain Aria Kade was already reconstructing the battlefield, not with her eyes, but with her pulse, her memory, and her will. She didn't need to see the enemy. She was already inside the hunt. "Command to all viewers, report your position." "Where are you watching from?" "Soldier." "Drop your coordinates in the comments and subscribe to stay on mission." 96 hours earlier. The wind over Tempest Ridge screamed like it wanted to tear the world apart. The forward base clung to the cliffs of the Dakara Highlands steel. Sandbags and silence. A fortress that didn't officially exist. Inside the command tent, fluorescent light buzzed overhead, washing pale faces in gray-yellow haze. 8 operators ringed a table littered with maps and half-drained coffee. The air tasted of adrenaline and exhaustion. At the center stood Director Lang Mercer Greyhair, razor eyes, a man who never raised his voice because he didn't need to. "The target is Dr. Aria Kade," Mercer said, voice flat as gunmetal, codename Professor. "He's selling a QX7 quantum encryption core at the Archon complex. If Helios Dominion gets it online, every secure network from Berlin to Washington goes dark." A low whistle from Lieutenant Ava Cho. "Signal specialist? That's not espionage, that's extinction." Mercer nodded once. "You have 96 hours. Prep in 6, move in 12, halo insertion north of Archon, retrieve the core and vanish before sunrise." He paused, letting silence fall heavy. "And remember, Protocol 7 stays black." He looked at them one by one. The ghost order. No rescue, no trace. No. Even the generator outside seemed to hesitate. Commander Rylan Cross broke the stillness. "If it's a trap." Mercer's smile was small. Cold. "Then improvise. That's why I asked for Viper 9. At the far end, Captain Aria Kade sat cross-legged, field-stripping her Barrett MRAD MK22 with ritual precision. Her eyes traced terrain contours on the holomap elevation. Crosswinds, choke points. The topography's wrong. she murmured. Too exposed. Corin wouldn't risk a sail in the open. He knows we're coming. Cross glanced at her respect, flickering behind the frown. So we walk into his mousetrap. She locked the bolt with a clean metallic click. Not if we learn the maze first. No one spoke. Outside. Rotors spooled up a Black Hawk, lifting into the dying light, the tent trembling under its wash. Cross straightened. We drop at 0200. Load out in 45. Standard comms. Silent exfil. If this smells wrong... He met Aria's eyes. Trust your gut. She gave a small, wry smile. Always do. Thunder rolled across the highlands like a warning, and far to the east, under floodlights at Arkan, Dr. Corin adjusted his glasses, already rehearsing how to welcome the hunters who didn't know they were prey. 200 hours above Arkan. The first shot didn't echo, it detonated. A flash ripped across the ridge, splitting the night into chaos. Dust. Heat. Metal screamed as the hillside erupted beneath them. Captain Aria Kade hit the ground hard, rolling behind a shattered ledge while tracer fire stitched the dark. Overcomms. Commander Rylan Cross cut through static. Contact north, multiple hostiles. How the hell did they find us? They'd been compromised, exactly as she'd warned. Below, headlights tore through the black 3 technicals charging uphill, DSK guns roaring. It wasn't random fire, it was choreography. Someone knew their every move. Aria steadied her Barrett MRAD MK22, one lens cracked from the last drop. 2 clean shots, drivers down. Trucks spun, colliding in sparks and flame. But victory lasted seconds. New engines rose from the east like thunder. Sniper 1 to Viper 9, 20-plus hostiles, flanking both sides. This is a setup. Abort Cross shouted. Fall back to Rally Alpha. Then the night shattered again. Mortars hit close, too close. Her overwatch collapsed, rock and dust raining down. She tasted iron. Her scope was gone. Her line of sight blind. Instinct said, hold. Doctrine said stay. But doctrine didn't bleed beside her people. She broke down the rifle, slung it, and sprinted downhill through fire and smoke. Every step was math angle, cover, distance. Every round she fired wasn't for the kill, but to bend the battle to carve her team a way out. At the valley floor, she found Cross pinned, Dalton dragging Graves, Ava Cho firing blind into the haze. Can't see a damn thing, Cross yelled. Then stop seeing, Aria barked. Listen. Through the haze movement, too steady, too clean, rubber rounds pinged off stone, stun grenades not frags. Her gut twisted. They're taking us alive! Cross's voice came over the comm. Grim and final. Protocol 7, execute on recognition. The ghost order. No rescue. No trace. Area froze, breath sharp. Chaos pressing in. For a heartbeat. She weighed the impossible follow the code, or save the mission. Then clarity cut through the noise. But dying here would kill more than her team. It would kill the mission. She exhaled. Calm. Decision made. Better a captive with a plan, she whispered, than a corpse in the dust. She stood, weapon lowered, voice steady through the storm. I'm coming in, don't shoot. Silence fell thick. Unnatural. Hands grabbed her, forced her down. The blindfold came fast, tight. The world vanished. But even in darkness, Aria didn't surrender. She listened, counting footsteps, marking voices, mapping space through vibration and air. Captivity wasn't defeat. It was infiltration in disguise. 96 hours later, Arkan Complex. The world returned in fragments metal. Motion. Pain. They had moved her through the night, hooded and half-conscious, The world reduced to vibration, steel and diesel fumes. When she woke, the air was thick with rust and cold concrete. Captain Aria Kade knelt on the floor, wrists zip-tied behind her, blindfold biting into her skin. The room was small, she knew it by the echo. One vent humming above, a guard pacing left to right, uneven step. Old injury. Water dripped on metal every 4 seconds. She counted each like a heartbeat. They thought darkness would break her. They didn't know it sharpened her world. "Captain Kade," a smooth, deliberate voice said, "you will tell me the extraction route, or your commander dies screaming." "Dr. Idran Koran." His voice carried the arrogance of control, but his tone curiosity. Aria tilted her head, listening. Behind the wall, faint chains, a groan. Cross, alive. 6 meters left. One vent above. Guard within striking reach. Koran stepped closer. "You think you're trained for this?" She smiled under the cloth. "No. Doctor, I was built for this." Then she moved. She threw her weight back. The chair splintered. She twisted, dragging the jagged edge against the ties. The plastic strained, bit, and snapped. Her wrists burned, but they were free. She pivoted low, catching the guard's rifle strap, using the broken frame as leverage. A twist, a pull, the weapon slammed under his chin. He dropped without a sound. The second guard turned too slow. 3 short bursts, chest, throat. Silence. Koran froze, disbelief cutting through his composure. Impossible. Aria stood steady, breathing even. Not impossible, just physics motion, timing, and fear. They all obey the same laws. She ripped off the blindfold. Harsh yellow light flooded the room, blood, steel, and dust. Koran was on his knees, one hand clutching his ribs. "Keys to the case," she ordered. He hesitated, smirking through blood. "Power doesn't come from nations anymore, Captain. It comes from those who own the code." He nodded toward a steel crate under the console, the QX7 module. Aria slung the pack over her shoulder. Gunfire rattled down the corridor closer now. Then a metallic snap, a lock giving way. "Aria!" Cross stumbled through the door, bruised, bleeding, rifle raised. She'd loosened his restraints earlier, gambling on chaos. He froze at the sight guards down, Koran gasping, Aria calm amid the wreckage. "You did this blindfolded, not blind," she said, reloading, just seeing differently. Automatic fire thundered again from the hall. "That's Viper 9 Cross," shouted. "Dalton and Holt. South entry." Aria listened, rotor blades faint, slicing the storm. "Raven 2-1 inbound, 5-minute window." Cross grinned through blood. "Cutting it close. Close," she said. "Chambering around is how we live." The walls shook under gunfire, light and dust raining down. Aria looked at Koran one last time, calm even in defeat, then turned toward the door and moved. Fast, fluid, unflinching. The sound of war followed her into the light. The wind hit like a living thing, fierce, alive, unforgiving. It tore past the open doors of a speeding truck racing through the Dakara desert under fire. Captain Aria Kade braced against the frame, rifle steady, night air cutting across her face. The QX7 module was strapped to her chest, the heart of the war, pulsing in code. Behind her, Commander Rylan Cross shouted over the roar. 2 clicks to ghost line. Keep those birds on schedule." Headlights flared in the mirror, 3 technicals in pursuit. DSK cannons hammering, Sparks clawed across the panels like rain made of flame. Aria leaned out, breath calm, sight locked. 3 rounds, 3 impacts. 1 truck spun, another collided. The third vanished in a bloom of fire that turned sand to glass. Cross barked a hoarse laugh. "Hell of a shot. Kade wouldn't be much of a sniper if I missed," she said, reloading. Ahead, searchlights slicing through smoke. Raven 2-1, the Blackhawk, roared into view, rotors shredding the dawn. The team bailed from the truck, sprinting for the ramp as tracer fire stitched the air. Mara Holt covered the flank. Dalton dragged the wounded Graves, shouting over the chaos. Cross turned back, voice raw. "Move." Aria hesitated for half a breath enough to glance back. The Archon complex burned behind them. Collapsing under its own weight, a kingdom of data and ambition reduced to ash. Corrin's words still echoed. "Power doesn't come from nations anymore. It comes from those who own the code." She tightened her grip on the QX-7 and climbed aboard. The Blackhawk lifted, desert wind screaming beneath. Fire faded to a dim glow below. Cross slumped opposite her, bleeding but alive. He met her eyes, a rare smile cutting through the exhaustion. "Protocol 7, he said quietly. "We came close." Aria looked out toward the horizon, the first light breaking, closer than anyone ever should. She paused, gaze steady. Mercer called it Protocol 7. I call it survival. The helicopter rose higher, dawn spilling gold across her face. Half light, half scar. She closed her eyes and finally exhaled. Weeks later, Naval Special Warfare Center, Coronado. Ocean thunder rolled beyond the training field. Rows of new recruits stood in formation, watching a screen flicker to life classified footage from Dakara. A woman, blindfolded, dismantling an enemy squad in silence. Captain Aria Kade stood before them, now uniform crisp, voice even. "The human brain depends on sight," she said. "Take that away, and most people panic." She let the silence stretch, heavy and alive. "But darkness doesn't take your power." Her tone dropped calm. "Razor sharp. It just forces you to find it somewhere else. No applause, no music, just quiet earned, sacred. Outside, waves crashed against rock, steady, endless. To Aria, it didn't sound like peace. It sounded like memory, the echo of those who walked into the dark and came back carrying light. Because warriors like her didn't need to see the battlefield. They became it.